Hello everyone, welcome to the Red Room. Today we are going to continue our review of Kult first edition, and we're going to talk about, well, Miguel mostly is the one that we're going to talk about, the Metropolis source book.
Yes, so Metropolis is one of those first source books that were only edited for first edition, and it has a lot of information about obviously Metropolis, which is the primordial city, um, the city where the 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 Archons and even the Demiurge at their base of operations, where they I'm not going to say where they lived because
They're not alive.
they aren't alive, so they are concepts more than creatures. So this is for those occasions where the characters end up in Metropolis. Metropolis is obviously a very dangerous place, and it's not supposed to be taken lightly. Going down to Metropolis is not the same thing as I don't know, um, encountering horror only, because there are other problems. When horror comes to you in our reality, or the lie, of course, um, it's dangerous, of course, but it doesn't alter everything about it. So, for example, you might die, you might go insane, but you probably don't travel in time.
Yeah,
For
the
it.
shock of going to Metropolis is different,
It's
right?
different, and also that's because it's a city that exists out of our own time and space, so strange things can happen just because you go there, even if you don't meet anything dangerous in Metropolis. Just because you were there, when you come back, you can go to the past or the future, or, well, lots of things that can happen.
But
So
it's interesting, right? Just you can have your characters just having a glimpse of Metropolis and just being there for a
yes,
short
yes,
time. If
yes.
it's too long, it's probably not.
Yes,
It will damage the character,
it
right?
can. Well, this book is there's lots of plot hooks and story seeds for this kind of situation. You can just meet something in the Borderlands, for example, not actually inside Metropolis. So the book is divided in several chapters. The first one is the cracks in the lie, which is what we're talking about right now. These are events, a series of events that can happen when you are entering Metropolis. Then the structure of madness. These are descriptions of Metropolis and some other incidents that can happen in Metropolis, actually in Metropolis. Then the layers of power. These are descriptions of places that probably the characters aren't going to visit a lot of times, but maybe they can.
Like the dwellings of the Archons.
Yes, they might end up there once and probably don't come back. So, well, they are detailed descriptions of palaces, and some more information and about creatures that you can find there, and the actual influence that still lingers even in the palaces where there are no one there, because the Archons that have disappeared, the palaces are still there.
But they have been abandoned, right?
Yeah, they are abandoned, but there's something there. Usually, there's something there still. Then the cogs in the machine. These are other places, not just not related necessarily to the Archons and the Demiurge. So the memory banks, the primal sea, the clockworks, the city of the dead, and the mirror halls. These are all places. They weren't invented just to be here, just to fill these pages. They were mentioned elsewhere, including
I remember
the
at
core
least
book.
City of the Dead.
Yeah,
That one for sure.
and the memory banks also. These were mentioned. I'm not sure. Well, probably the memory banks, the primal sea, and the city of the dead were mentioned in published scenarios. Then the chapter called The Damned. This is about the creatures, the supernatural creatures that inhabit. Well, some of those aren't quite supernatural, they are aliens or something like that. So, well, stats for creatures that you might meet, there or not there,
Yes, because you
outside.
can have the creatures coming
Yeah.
to meet the players in our world.
I'm not sure. I don't think they mentioned the ones. Well, they mention, but they don't. The stats aren't here. The ones who are in the core book, but there are many
Yeah, there
pages
are
for that.
just additional ones, right?
The additional ones, yeah. The other ones are mentioned, but not the stats. And then there are some more things. There's some rules for using the Tarotica, which is a deck of cards that now exists,
Tarot
but
deck of cards.
yeah, that now exists in the new edition, but in the first edition it wasn't published as an object, a physical object. It was just mentioned in the adventure called Taroticum, published in 1994. It described the 78 cards that make up the Tarotica. This is a magical deck of cards that mirrors the nature of reality and the lie and all those concepts. There are cards for all the archons and the death angels, and the demiurge also, and mankind is also represented. So there are rules here to use dice instead of cards, and if you just roll the dice and then you choose an option, so related to one of those cards. I don't think the new deck of cards has something to do with this. Well, it's the cards are the same, but I don't know, the interpretation probably not the same. Not I can't remember it. Just looking at this, but I think they went other way. So I'm not going to talk about the description of Metropolis, among other things, because it would take too long. And well, Metropolis. This is not a travel guide. This is just mentions some places, because most of Metropolis is a place that changes constantly, even though there are some characteristics that remain, but most of it changes constantly. So I'm going to mention just a few of those plot seeds related to some events and places. So you have suggestions to use travel and transports, uh, car rides and
So there are cars
places.
working in Metropolis?
No, this is outside Metropolis.
Ah, okay.
So
No, I was I was thinking it
yeah,
was
so
strange.
there are many plot seeds here. You're probably not going to use most of those. You just browse through here and find something that interests you. So, for example, I'm looking at this. There's a chapter called Taxi, and then you have several options for using taxis in encounters with creatures from Metropolis or going into Metropolis. And there's another called car rides. There are two story scenes in this one. Then the road tunnel. The road tunnel has 2 or 3 options.
Yeah, I guess the road tunnel, it's a bit of a cliche. I can automatically see
Yeah.
how that could be used.
And the night bus.
Yeah.
The night bus is just one. Then there's the subway. The subway is my favorite, because this includes something that reminds me of Clive Barker's the mid train, the
yes,
midnight
midnight
train.
mid-train.
It's called Metro North here. It's not exactly the same thing, but and then there are train stations, and well, this was just and hospitals, and then it goes into objects and artifacts that have some connection to Metropolis, clockworks and cameras and computer programs, and obviously you can add here puzzle boxes.
Videodrome.
Videodrome is also inspired by it. Well, not exactly the same Videodrome, but the name is obviously what. And there are some references to other movies here. And what else? Well, then there are places. The Structure of Madness contains those. So places that contact the living city. That has connections to slums and other places like those, like trenches and industrial sites. And then you have several incidents that can happen in places like those, and then ruins and the underground. The underground is also a part of Metropolis. It's a kind of well, it's an underground place, of course.
Underground city.
Yes. So it's something that you can, some place where you can enter when you are in tunnels or in other places underground, of course. And well, many other things here. The labyrinth also, and well, I could just well, yeah, that's a lot of things here.
A lot of lot of content.
I'm very sure that you wouldn't need all this, but well, it covers everything that could happen, basically, inside or on the outskirts of Metropolis. So you can use it a lot of times with several different groups and still.
And we are not showing it because we don't have we only have the physical book, but this is another reason to buy this book, is that it's actually a very good looking book for
Yes.
something from the 90s.
Yeah, it has. It's not a colorful book, but it's colored anyway. It's in shades of red and brown. It's readable, which is worth mentioning when you're talking about Kult, because there are. The unreadable ones, or almost unreadable ones, are second edition books, not first edition. The first edition, even the best looking books have a layout that's very easy to read, because well, the text is black over a white background, so no problem here. And well, the illustrations are very evocative. Mostly Bergting, I'm not sure if this is the way to pronounce it, but it's the author of most of those, and I like it. I think he has done illustrations for Mutant Chronicles also. I'm not sure, but I think so. Yes, almost sure. Yes, almost sure. He did. So it was Peter Bergting, Stefan Thunberg, and Torgil Hellman. But I think most of the illustrations here are from Peter Bergting, who also did illustrations for Mutant Chronicles.
They're a similar style.
Yeah,
I'm recognizing
I
it.
remember. Yeah, this one here, for instance. Well, you're not watching this, but anytime. Anyway. So that's it. So Metropolis obviously wasn't published again, and I'm not sure if it will be published something like that for the current edition. I have my doubts, because people who are playing this now, Kult now, are not interested in this kind of information, so probably not. But as other Kult books, you can probably still find them on eBay, on Noble Knight, and other stores like that. Probably even in Amazon, those
Yes.
connected sellers that sell through Amazon.
They're probably still not that expensive, right? We already talked about that because of the
Yes,
second edition.
well, there was a
The new
time.
edition, I'm sorry.
Yeah, there was a time when the core books and some of the source books even were overpriced, and well, people were charged. Were asking $100 or maybe more than that. Right now, I think you can buy Metropolis probably by $30. I think, maybe even less if you are. If you don't mind buying a very used book, and well, it's better than nothing, I think. And I think that you should give it a try if you are interested in Cult, because Metropolis is also the most interesting books for Cult, besides the core book and the player's handbook that people usually don't like, but I like it. Are these two that we already mentioned, Legion of Darkness and Metropolis. If you have to buy something, buy those, and do not buy the scenarios and the campaigns, because most of those are quite railroading.
Yes.
And
We might talk about the campaigns.
yeah, but
in future
I'll
videos,
probably.
But they are very railroading.
I don't think I will talk about those. I'll probably, unless I just devote one episode to talk about the ones I don't like. The one I like is Fallen Angels, and that's probably going to be the next video about Cult. So that's it for today. Perhaps it's a good idea to get Metropolis if you can. And I think there are still many books out there, because these were they weren't popular, but
They sold enough.
they sold enough. Yes. Okay. Bye bye.
Bye bye.